The world's biggest oil lifeline is burning, not in flames, you can see, but in disruption, in fear, in instability spreading across the most critical energy corridors on Earth. Oil just surged toward $90. And at the same time, low-cost drones, some worth less than a luxury car, are striking strategic Gulf ports that handle billions of dollars in energy flow every single day. This is not just another geopolitical headline. This is a signal, a dangerous one. Because when a $20,000 drone can outsmart a multi-billion-dollar energy infrastructure network, the balance of power changes instantly. And that's why this matters. Because oil is not just a commodity, it is the lifeline of the global economy. Every shipment, every trade route, every financial system depends on the uninterrupted flow of energy. And now, that flow is under direct threat, not from full-scale war yet, but from something far more unpredictable: asymmetric disruption, precision strikes, strategic instability. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. The Gulf region handles nearly a third of the world's seaborne oil trade. Millions of barrels per day move through narrow choke points, ports and terminals that are highly efficient, but increasingly exposed. A single disruption in one key port can delay shipments across continents. Insurance costs spike. Freight rates surge. Markets react instantly. Now layer in the drone factor. These are not advanced fighter jets or billion-dollar missiles. These are relatively cheap, highly precise, and increasingly accessible technologies. They don't need to destroy an entire facility. They just need to disrupt it, damage a pipeline, disable a loading terminal, create uncertainty. And uncertainty is enough to move markets. That's exactly what we're seeing. Oil prices approaching $90 are not just about supply and demand. They are about fear, risk premiums, market anticipation of further escalation. Because traders understand something critical: once energy infrastructure becomes a target, stability disappears. Now look at the contrast. On one side you have some of the most sophisticated energy systems ever built: massive ports, advanced logistics, global supply chains designed for efficiency. On the other side, you have small, mobile, relatively inexpensive tools capable of bypassing traditional defenses. This is the vulnerability. Because the system was built for scale, not for resilience against asymmetric threats. And that changes everything. Now let's go deeper into the numbers. Global oil demand sits around 100 million barrels per day. Supply and demand are already tightly balanced. Spare capacity is limited, concentrated mostly in a few key producers. That means any disruption, even small, can create outsized price reactions. Now imagine multiple disruptions, not full-scale war, not massive destruction, just repeated, targeted strikes that create uncertainty and delay. That's enough to push prices higher. That's enough to destabilize markets. And that's enough to trigger a chain reaction across the global economy. Because oil is directly tied to inflation. Higher oil prices mean higher transportation costs, higher production costs, higher consumer prices. And when inflation rises, central banks are forced to respond, raise interest rates, tighten liquidity. And when liquidity tightens, financial systems come under pressure. This is how an energy shock becomes a financial crisis. Now add geopolitics into the equation. The Gulf is not just an energy hub, it is a strategic battlefield. Regional tensions, global interests, military presence. Every player understands the importance of these routes. And when tension rises, the risk of escalation increases. But here's the key shift. This is not traditional escalation. This is controlled disruption. Low-cost, high-impact actions designed to destabilize without triggering full-scale war. This is a new form of conflict, and it is perfectly suited to energy markets. Because you don't need to destroy supply to create a crisis. You just need to threaten it. Now connect this to the financial system. Oil is priced in dollars. This means higher oil prices increase global demand for dollars. At the same time, they create inflationary pressure in importing countries. This creates imbalances. Countries struggle with higher costs. Currencies weaken. Debt becomes harder to manage, and all of this feeds back into the global system. This is the hidden layer. Because energy and finance are not separate systems, they are deeply interconnected. Now let's step back and look at history, because this pattern has played out before. In the 1970s, oil shocks reshaped the global economy. Prices surged, inflation exploded, growth slowed. But something else happened. The global financial system changed. The petrodollar system emerged. Oil was priced in dollars. Demand for dollars increased. That system defined global finance for decades. Now look at today. We are seeing another period of energy instability. But this time, the context is different. Global debt is much higher. Financial systems are more interconnected, and geopolitical tensions are more complex. This makes the system more fragile. Now go even further back. Empires have always depended on secure energy or resource flows. Rome depended on grain shipments, Britain on coal and shipping routes. When those flows were disrupted, power shifted. This is the pattern. Control the lifeline, control the system. Disrupt the lifeline, and the system weakens. Now look at the present. The oil lifeline is no longer secure, not because of a single war, but because of a new type of vulnerability: low-cost, high-impact disruption. This is the game changer. Now let's talk about what happens next. In the next 24 to 72 hours, markets will react to every headline, every report of a strike, every signal of escalation. Oil prices will be volatile, sudden spikes, sharp pullbacks, because uncertainty will dominate. But the real story is not the short-term movement, it's the long-term shift. Because once infrastructure becomes a target, risk is permanently repriced. Insurance costs rise, investment decisions change, supply chains adjust. This is not temporary, this is structural. Now consider the broader impact. Higher energy costs feed into global inflation. Inflation pressures central banks. Central banks tighten policy. And tighter policy increases financial stress. This is the chain reaction. And it doesn't stop at markets. It affects governments, budgets, stability, public sentiment. This is how economic stress becomes political stress. And political stress leads to further instability. Now here's the most critical point. The system is already under pressure. High global debt, tightening liquidity, fragile markets. And now, an energy shock is being added on top. This is what makes this moment so dangerous. Because systems rarely break from a single event. They break when multiple pressures converge. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Energy instability, financial strain, geopolitical tension, all at the same time. Now here's the final warning. This is not just about oil reaching $90. It's about what that price represents. Fear, risk, instability, and a system entering a new phase. A phase where traditional assumptions no longer hold. Where infrastructure is no longer safe. Where markets react not just to supply and demand, but to threat and uncertainty. History tells us what happens next. Periods of energy instability often precede major global shifts. Economic crises, political realignments, even wars. The system doesn't collapse immediately. It destabilizes, then it shifts, then it resets. The only question is this: are we witnessing the early stages of an energy crisis, or the opening moves of a much larger conflict that will redefine power, markets, and the global financial system itself?